Show and tonight's startup recap of the Birdhouse number 4 Best Ball Superflex Start to Tight End 0.75 Tight End Premium League. Whew, that's a mouthful. All right. Well, we are in round 22 of this Best Ball League, and so we're going to get the draft board right up for you in a second. But first of all, remember to smash the like and subscribe, and be sure to check out the Patreon, patreon.com/Birdhouse Dynasty Show, as well as the Buy Me a Coffee spot, buymeacoffee.com/Birdhouse Dynasty Show. All right, so here we are. We are in round 22 of this startup, and let's start off with the first 10 rounds here. So as you can see, I picked at the 104, traded that back to collect a second, 7th, and 10th rounder for the 104, our 12th and 18th rounders, and we got a future 26 first thrown in on top of that. So if you look at that deal here, we got Brian Thomas Jr., Jamison Williams, and Geno Smith, plus that future first from Ramzak for what turned into Lamar Jackson, Bashul Tutin, and A.D. Mitchell. So Lamar Jackson, Tutin, and Mitchell for Brian Thomas, JMO, and Geno Smith, plus a future first. So that's a deal I don't mind making. I mean, best ball, you could argue Lamar Jackson versus Brian Thomas Jr. and Geno Smith plus the first would be about even. And then I'll take JMO for Tutin and A.D. Mitchell. That would be my side. So I like the side for best ball that I got. Now Ramzak definitely built out a strong team by getting Lamar. He got Kyler Murray as well as Aaron Rodgers down there. He snuck him in the 12th round for his third quarterback. He's got Jefferson, who he got at the 107, along TMC and Mike Evans there, Jalen McMillan, Michael Pittman, and then he filled in some wide receivers at running back. He got Saquon in the third, then Pacheco, and Tutin, Ray Davis, and started filling in some there. So not a bad lineup for him either. All right, now let's go back to looking at the board, and just looking at the board in general. You can look at the orange spots. I want you to pay attention to the tight ends here. So remember, this is we start 12 best ball, 2 tight end, mind you, and the 0.75 tight end premium. So this especially came into play around rounds 8 or 9 or 10, and then it just took off between rounds 10 and 15. If I can show you here, if you want to focus in. So round 8 is at the top of the board right now, but just look at all of the orange on the board. This would definitely not be how your typical startup would go. Starting in round 8, Mason Taylor went. Then I was able to grab Mark Andrews in round 8, which I don't feel was too much of an overpay. I mean, I guess he usually goes around round 9 in most leagues right now in startups. But then Tucker Kraft went And I'll be honest, if Bryce Young wasn't there, I had my finger on the trigger for Tucker Kraft. If Bryce Young had gone where I took Mason Taylor, or where Mojo took Mason Taylor, I was heavily considering going Kraft and Mark Andrews there to get the 2 tight ends, because I felt that the rest of these dudes would go earlier than normal. I didn't quite expect them to go as early as they did, because you see here, Kraft went in round 8, Jonnu went in round 8, Kincaid in round 9, nothing spectacular there. But then you see Ferguson go round 10, and Njoku round 10 is fine, Pitts round 10 is fine, then Travis Kelce round 10 is a little earlier than normal. Then it really gets wild. You get Freiermuth in round 11, same with Ingram, which is fine, but then Isaiah Likely in round 11, Turd Ferguson round 11. We grabbed Goddard then as our second tight end because I saw the run here happening, and I was targeting making sure that if we didn't get Goddard, we were going to get somebody from this group of Otten, Hunter Henry, Gesicki, and Zach Ertz, as well as Dalton Schultz. I wanted to make sure, but looking at the craziness that was going on, and we didn't have our 12th round pick, I was like, we better pull the trigger now, because who knows, by the time we get back to our next pick, which would have been round 13, 2 full rounds later, I didn't want to have to cough up future draft capital or later selections, giving up our 13th and 15th to get up into the 12th round, something crazy. I just figured we'll take Goddard. He's undervalued, I think. He's typically finishing around as a tight end 1, very back end of tight end 1 territory, which is real solid for a 2 tight end league, right? And so he's generally undervalued as like dynasty tight end number 22. We got him as let me count it off here just for shits and giggles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Kittle, great value in the 5th. I thought he would have gone in the 4th. I mean, I considered Kittle where we took Baker Mayfield in the 4th. So anyway, 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 15 through round 10. Then it got crazy here. 11, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So I took Goddard as the 20th tight end off the board. Right now in Dynasty, I'm guessing Brenton Strange and Cade Otton are probably valued ahead of him. Over Fannin even is. I don't know, but regardless, I definitely value Goddard over, over some of these rookies not named Warren or Loveland. I could easily take Goddard over any of them. Mason Taylor is looking like he'll have a solid role in that Jets offense where there's not much to be spoken for as far as targets go. But the other rookies, when you start talking Ferguson and then you get down to Arroyo and Fannin, for those guys to be valued ahead of Goddard is a little silly to me. And then Goddard, I think he's heads up with Ferguson at least. Probably can outscore Kincaid even. So I don't know. I'll take Goddard where we grabbed him there. But as you can see, the craziness did not end there. So Goddard was The 20th tight end off the board, Strange 21, Theo Johnson 22, then Cade Otton 23, Sinat 24, and Arroyo 25. This is through round 14 only. 25. Then it got silly in round 15 as well when Mike Gesicki went in round 15. Now Gesicki I like I said earlier, I like this little patch of Gesicki, Henry, and Dalton Schultz and Zach Ertz of the veteran tight ends who can get late and still produce. Tight ends last a long time, and to not grab the instant gratification here, because these tight ends can still play 2 or 3 more years. We don't even know if Arroyo or Fannin or if they're going to do anything. Even Ferguson, we don't know. And we've seen Isaiah Likely, but how good is he actually finished, right? So I just see a lot of artificial value pumping up some of these younger tight ends that I'm trying to take advantage of by getting these veterans. And so you can see we ended up grabbing Mark Andrews in round 8, Goddard in round 11, Ertz in round 15, and then Dalton Schultz in round 16. I mean, Mitchell Evans, for crying out loud, went ahead of Dalton Schultz. Like, that just seems crazy. Aronde Gadsden going ahead of Dalton Schultz. Like, I like Gadsden, and I'm questioning that. So this format really, really made it nuts. What does Zoran Mamdani's victory in for the Giants and okay. Yeah. Don't think we talk politics on here, Alan, but does this make Tyrod Taylor a sneaky buy? Okay. And we'll ignore the first part, but is Tyrod Taylor a sneaky buy? Okay. Well, with the contract that Fields got, I'm thinking he's going to play the whole season. All right. It's a 2-year deal with pretty much 2 years guaranteed, meaning that even as bad as Fields might play, and Fields is an interesting player to discuss now, especially in best ball where he can just boom, boom. And you can see here he went in the round 6, right after Dak, in between Dak and Penix in this one. Fields is a great asset to have right now because not only will he score points for you, but he could be great value to trade. If he pops in the first couple games, his value is only going to go up even more. And the fact is, he might be popping fantasy-wise, but the Jets could still lose. And then if he's bad enough record-wise, like let's say, sure, he finishes well fantasy-wise, but the Jets go 5-12. Well, even with a guaranteed contract next season, they could easily take a quarterback in the first round next year. If they're 5-12, it's going to be a top 10 pick. They could easily grab a quarterback there. What I'm getting at with Tyrod Taylor, depends how deep your league is. He's old. There's no reason for the Jets, especially as long as Fields is keeping them in contention and in this battlefield of the AFC conference as a whole. Like, it is brutal in the AFC. I mean, you've got the AFC North with 3 playoff teams. You got the AFC West with 3 playoff teams. The South is not great, but you got Jacksonville on the rise, and Indy is still hanging around there. And then the AFC East, where Buffalo, of course, reigns supreme, but you got the up-and-coming Patriots with Mike Vrabel at the helm now and Drake May at quarterback, who everybody wants to succeed. And then you got the Jets and Dolphins. So they're not terrible. Like, the Dolphins are one of everybody's favorites to see their coach get fired first, which could happen. But at the same time, if Tua's healthy, like, they're a pretty solid squad when Tua is healthy. So there is literally the only teams that I'm counting out of the playoffs right now in the AFC would be like the Raiders, who actually are better than most give them credit for right now, with Pete Carroll and Geno Smith at the helm. Like, I guess they could sneakily be around a 500 team this year. It's just in a tough division. So I guess I would say I'd count out the Raiders and the who am I missing in the South? Jacksonville, Houston, Indy, and Tennessee. Sure. So Tennessee with a rookie quarterback, I don't think they're getting into the playoffs this year. You know, it would have to be a super down year for the AFC South, and they sneak in at 9-8, winning the division, which is a possibility always when, you know, you're talking about a team like Houston on top. Houston's got a good defense, don't get me wrong. But if there were an injury to Stroud, that could hinder Houston's chances at winning the division by a long shot. And then you've got Jacksonville, who, yeah, their offense is going to be good. I'm not worried about their offense at all. It's their defense that's so inconsistent that I'm not sure of. So that's the AFC in my head in a nutshell. The North and the West are going to just be bloodshed divisions there, with three strong teams, all of which could go to the Super Bowl. I mean, literally, like, I don't think Pittsburgh's going. I'm not that high on Rodgers, but, you know, they sneak into the playoffs and they can yuck wins out. And I'm not one to hop on Rodgers' bandwagon here, but he announced his retirement today at the end of this season. This year will be his last season. So he's going to be throwing it all out there on the line. And when he's got a strong defense behind him, he doesn't have to carry the team. So in a nutshell, back to Tyrod Taylor. You know, if he's on waivers, go ahead. I don't mind throwing backup quarterbacks anywhere, anytime onto my roster at the very back end, because, yeah, Justin Fields, those 2 years are guaranteed. You know, if it gets to week 12 or whatever, and the Jets are 2-10, you know, then I could see Tyrod maybe getting some snaps. I don't know. And he himself is not a bad fantasy player when he gets into the lineup because of his rushing ability as well. But back to this draft. So again, the tight ends were pretty wild here. Again, if you take a look at my squad, how I played around the tight ends, you can see there. So my roster construction currently is, I started off with 3 wide receivers, grabbed J-Mo as my 4th. In the 7th round there, Jamison Williams, one of my favorite buys right now. I love grabbing him in the 7th round, as I could easily see him moving up into, like, you know, T. Higgins territory this season. I'm not going to claim that I think he'll be a wide receiver 1, but, you know, alongside Amon-Ra, we'll see with the new offensive coordinator, but he was definitely getting more touches towards the end of last season. Then my draft shifted in the 6th. I grabbed Penix at the 604 as my second quarterback, partially because we have Drake London, but then Christian McCaffrey was still sitting there, and so is Henry. And I guess I have Henry in so many leagues that I just went McCaffrey. But looking back on it, I might want Henry instead. I don't know. Henry just feels not injury proof, but a better bet to not get injured, put it that way, when he can score just about as much as a healthy McCaffrey. But anyway, CMC was sitting there at the 605 still, and I felt like I knew that my draft was going to go one way then, and I went ahead and did it, and I don't feel bad about it because, God, the veteran value fell into our laps here. Like, we took Kamara here in this the 709, when normally I wouldn't grab a running back, but I also didn't love the wide receivers actually that were there either. Like, I probably would have gone Mike Evans, I guess, but to stack up with Baker. But I was eyeballing up Chris Godwin possibly in the 9th round is what I was looking at possibly doing. But Godwin, as you can see, with Mark Andrews there, and we weren't picking until the 11th, so that kind of went by the wayside there. When we picked Geno at the 10:07, we were hoping for Godwin to fall to the 10:07 there. But anyway, went CMC, Kamara, then James Conner. Could have taken Godwin there, I guess, too, but didn't. And that might have been the mistake if I look back on it. But I don't mind taking Conner there in the 9th. It was right after DeAndre Swift and Joe Mixon went, before Pacheco and David Montgomery went. I like Conner as a better bet than Pacheco and Montgomery. Conner might be older than the two, but I think he has better single season point production, and that's what you're really looking when you're looking at running backs. Honestly, I build in 1 year windows, so I don't mind building old school running backs here. So then we got Goddard in the 11th, Darnell Mooney to stack up with Penix, so we got the double stack in the Atlanta offense there. Javonte Williams in the 14th, Ertz and Schultz, then Brashard Smith, now Josh Palmer and Nick Chubb, then Amari Cooper, and now Jalen Lane. We finally went with a rookie down here in the 22nd. So Brashard Smith and Jalen Lane, 2 rookies. Yeah, can't say we're all old. All right. But then let's go look at some other guys' squads here. So the Reaper traded out of the 101, ended up getting what did he do? He got a 3rd and 4th, which ended up being Garrett Wilson and Trevor Lawrence. Then he got a future 1st. He traded away his 1st and 8th rounders. So he's sitting on Nix, Lawrence, and Tua. And then at running back, Achane, Brian Robinson. Receivers, pretty solid with Garrett Wilson, Rome, Zay Flowers, and Olave. And then don't love the tight ends so much. He went super young at tight end. But we'll see. You can always trade for him. Although in this league, I think it's going to be pretty rough sledding trying to trade for tight ends. Okay, so there you go. You see the rest of Reaper's squad. We'll go over to Megatoast now, take a quick look at him. He got the 2 quarterbacks to start. Then Omarion Hampton and Tet in the 3rd round, 2 rookies, along with Ray Rice in the 4th. Then the rookie Colston Loveland. He went very young with this team. Ricky Pearsall in the 7th. Personally, I don't love him. Trey Harris in the 9th. Again, just sticking with the young philosophy. Kyle Williams, Jack Besh, Tajay Spears, Ben Sinnott, Cedric Tillman, then Mitchell Evans, Jarquez Hunter, Torrey Horton, Taj Brooks, Joe Milton. You can see super young with this squad here for Megatoast. All right. But that goes in line with the 2 quarterbacks that he grabbed. And fortunately for him, those were the only two quarterbacks until Joe Milton that he grabbed. So that's where he's at the QB position. Now Mojo. Mojo has not been able to make a deal yet. Now, that said, he's still built quite a solid squad. Josh Allen, Justin Fields, and Stafford at quarterback. Ladd McConkey, um, Jaden Higgins, Calvin Ridley, Juwan Johnson, Shaheed, Mims, and so on at receiver. So still a solid receiver room, even though he didn't go too wide receiver heavy early on. He went with the triple running backs here, which was interesting. I haven't seen too many squads do this in the third, fourth, and fifth round. But, Bucky, JT, and Chase Brown, solid running backs, no doubt. And since then, he's added Devin Neal, Garendo, and Eckler. So, three guys that should have at least a role and could get into a lineup on a weekly basis. Okay. So a decent team there for Mojo. Then we have Justin, JV Uncut. Now he made an interesting trade going up from the 208 to the 203 to move up and grab CeeDee Lamb. Now afterwards he told me he was making that deal to hopefully get Trey McBride. So he made the deal too early because he gave up his fifth rounder moving back to the 12th. Now that is just something you don't want to do, because that fifth rounder ended up being Cam Ward, which this squad could definitely use Cam Ward here. And if he just stayed pat, he would add Nico Collins, which would be totally fine with a Chase Nico build versus a Chase CeeDee build. I love CeeDee Lamb, but that big difference doesn't make up for it. I mean, you got Cam Ward versus Aaron Jones here. Lots of value lost. So his running backs, he's sitting on Quinshawn, Scattaboo, Aaron Jones, Jalen Warren, and Braylon Allen, along with Rico Dowdle. Not bad running backs. And then the receivers. So he's got Chase, CeeDee, Golden. Then it gets ugly. Xavier Legette. And now DeAndre Hopkins and Felton. So he also has Bateman too, sorry. So that's a little bit of an issue in a best ball format, that kind of wide receiver room. He may want to work on that. But Laporta and Kincaid, solid starters in a two tight end format. Nice and young. And then he got Cole Kmet late, who fell in the 16th. In a draft like this, where the tight ends were crazy, I'll take Cole Kmet over a bunch of these tight ends that went before him. I'll take Kmet over Sinnott, hell, even Theo Johnson, Arroyo, Fannin, JT Sanders. Even with Loveland coming in, I think that Kmet's still going to get some decent run there in Chicago. All right. Anyway, Hergot, kind of been quiet. He's sneakily made a few moves and built quite a squad. So Joe Burrow, Prescott, and Tyler Shook as a third isn't great at quarterback, but with Burrow and Dak, he should, those guys you can count on pretty much every week to get in the lineup. Then Puka, T. Higgins, DK, Judy, Waddle, Godwin, Shakir. Just love this wide receiver room he built. And then Wandell and Dante Thornton, love all those picks. Then at tight end, Hawkinson and Njoku, JT Sanders as a third tight end, Noah Fant grabbing him late in the 20th. I mean, that's a steal in this kind of format. So good 4 tight ends there for Hergot. The only spot where he's a little shaky, maybe, Henry, Montgomery, Pollard, Tank at running back, but that's actually pretty solid when you look at it. I mean, Henry, Montgomery, and Pollard are going to have similar numbers. And then Tank Bigsby is an interesting spot here. He's the cheapest of the Jacksonville running backs, but And that with that three-headed monster, I mean, any of them could emerge as the top guy, and in a new offense. Everybody's excited about Tootin, and then ETN obviously is kind of the incumbent number one, but Tank is still not too shabby, so we'll see. We'll do an upcoming video on ambiguous backfields, and in that we should definitely have Jacksonville as one of the main ones Matt and I will discuss. All right, now on to Ramzak, the guy who moved up, got Lamar Jackson. We already kind of talked on him. Let's go over to Steve's squad. Steve didn't make deals till later on. Oh, what did I do there? There we go. Okay, so up top, 4 wide receivers to start things, mainly because Travis Hunter fell so far into the 4th round. But Neighbors, Amon-Ra, JSN, and Hunter, great quad stack of receivers. Quarterback, not so great. You know, Goff, Darnold, and Russell Wilson you're not too excited about that, but then yet there's still going to be production, and he got the Darnold JSN stack, the Goff Amon-Ra stack, right? So, and then he even stacked up Russell Wilson with Neighbors, at least to start the season. That looks good. Who knows how long Russ keeps his job there, but we'll see. Then running backs, not bad. Josh Jacobs, Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet, Rashad White, Dylan Sampson, and DJ Giddens, and then Ollie Gordon now. So I like those running backs. So definitely some trade bait possibly there. Then Tucker Kraft, Kyle Pitts, and Cade Otton, along with Noah Gray. I like those 4 tight ends. I mean, I don't love Pitts. I already did a video saying sell him, but again, when he's your second tight end in a start 2 tight end, and then you back it up with Cade Otton, you'll take the boom weeks for Pitts when they happen, because he's still going to have a few weeks. Even if he's inconsistent, he'll still have a few big games. And we get to Ty DeClaire, who got one of the more interesting starts. McBride, I should say, in this league format, falls to the 109, and then grabbed back-to-back QBs in Mahomes and Herbert. He had traded away his 4th early on in the after the league was initiated. He made a deal moving back, and let's see, he moved his 4th and 10th and got a 6th and 7th. So he moved back 2 rounds from the 4th to the 9th, moved up 3 rounds from the 10th to the 7th. And I like what ended up happening there. I mean, if you look at it, it's Trevor Lawrence and Jaden Reed for RJ Harvey and Caleb Johnson. So I like what happened there with the build he was able to get. Now, he benefited from George Kittle falling all the way to the 5th round. Kittle in this format is at least worth a 4th rounder. Again, like I said, I was contemplating taking him where I took Baker Mayfield at the 404. And then he fell 12 spots from there. So I bet a number of these guys, pretty much just about all of them, maybe other than who took the quarterbacks, all of them are probably wishing they took Kittle instead of their picks, looking back on it. But anyway, Ty grabbed McBride and Kittle along with Mahomes and Herbert, then also grabbed Dart in the 8th. He got this quad stack of running backs here in round 6 and 7. Kyron, who fell, then the 2 rookies, Harvey and Johnson, and then Chuba Hubbard at the 704. So I was a little surprised at the Isaiah Likely pick, I'll say that, because there's a lot of ADV there in Likely. But when you've got McBride and Kittle, they're pretty much in the lineup every week for you. So then, with this interesting build, he didn't grab a receiver until round 11, and then just hammered them, hammered the veterans. Jacoby Myers, Cooper Kupp, Deebo Samuel, Keon Coleman, who I guess is in his second year, but still. Then Hollywood, Adam Thielen, Pop Douglas, and Yoshivas now last round. So he still ended up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'll stop at Pop Douglas. 7 decent wide receivers. You know, obviously Thielen's super old. Who knows how long it'll last, but at least for this single season, he'll be all right. And I'll note that wide receivers and running backs are generally the easiest to draft. Like, think about our rookie drafts, and when you're in a rookie draft, the hit rate in the first round of running backs especially and wide receivers is much greater than the hit rates at quarterback and tight end. So that's where I think Ty was looking at this build, and it kind of fell to him all throughout, especially through his first 4 picks there, with Kittle dropping to the 504. And again, looking back on it, McBride should have definitely gone ahead of the 109 pick, in my opinion at least. All right. Let's get through the last 3 guys here. Kyle, re-educated, grabbed Bijan in the first at the 110, then moved back, gaining that trade from Javion Cut. Ended up with Nico Collins still instead of CeeDee, and then was able to get Cam Ward here in the 5th, which was huge for him. He grabbed Stroud right after grabbing Nico, so he got the nice stack there. Then Breece Hall, Travion Henderson, James Cook, Joe Mixon. Like, this running back room is just stacked. You know, Mixon, Cook, Travion, Breece, and Bijan. So going Bijan in the first round, he decided to stick to that build, stayed true to it, and he, I think, benefited from it. Now, he's got to hammer wide receivers the rest of the way. Because, yes, they leave a little something to be desired, but the top 4 are solid. Like, as long as Ayuk comes back from this injury, Nico, Xavier Worthy, Addison, and Ayuk, that's fine. His third quarterback is sketchy. And, you know, Will Howard, not as exciting as much anymore with Rodgers playing. But, you know, Rodgers did, again, announce his retirement from the league at the end of this season, meaning Will Howard is definitely going to have a shot at starting next year. So not terrible in that regard. And I still like Jalen Milroe if he ever gets his shot, like, and Sam Darnold isn't playing well, like, that could be Milroe's team. Tight end, not bad. Kelsey, Hunter Henry. Don't love Gunnar Helm, but, you know, could have maybe used an extra tight end, but I love the top 2 in Kelsey and Henry there. All right. Then we've got Bestball Bruni, and Bestball Bruni started off with Genty. His running backs after that didn't go for another running back till round 9, and he grabbed DeAndre Swift and Najee Harris and Tyron Tracy as his top 4. Decent. It'll look a lot better if Genty blows up right away, I'll say that. He did grab Caleb Williams at the 202, which is the highest I've seen him go. I'm kind of surprised I didn't see him go somewhere higher like this in other drafts, but honestly, I do draft with quite a few. Oh man, I forgot to go back to the screen here for you guys. Okay, so here's Kyle's team with the running backs. Bijan, Breece Hall, Travion Henderson, James Cook, and Joe Mixon. The receivers, Nico, Xavier Worthy, Addison, and Ayuk. Quarterback, Stroud and Ward. And then tight ends are Kelsey and Hunter Henry down here. So he needs to hammer some wide receivers going forward. Bestball Bruni here started with Genti, then waited all the way till the 9th and 10th rounds. It was a little surprising that he waited that long with taking Genti in the first. Then Caleb Williams, the 202. I don't hate it. Huge upside possibility for Caleb this year. He stacked him with DJ Moore in the 5th. He got Marv in the 3rd, Purdy in the 4th, Pickens and Tyreek in the 6th and 7th. Solid tight ends late. Jonnu in the 8th, Ingram in the 11th, Gesicki in the 15th. Like all those tight ends. So looking decent here. He did grab Daniel Jones in the 12th, which was, looking now where the quarterbacks were going, like he took Daniel Jones right after Rodgers went. So he was the next best quarterback, in my opinion, easily. And so his quarterbacks are Caleb, Purdy, and Daniel Jones, who I believe will start week 1 for the Colts. Could be wrong. Maybe Rich gets back healthy and overtakes him, but I think Daniel Jones is going to be, if not week 1, at least by the end of September, he'll probably be in there. Then we get to Havdi's squad, and this is the one that's interesting. He traded up for Brock Bowers in a deal that I think, most will look at the value and take Havdi's side. He got Bowers and Egbuka in the 8th for what ended up Garrett Wilson and Trevor Lawrence. And we all know how crazy all the other tight ends went. I think that Bowers deserved the 101 spot in this format. Then he got Jalen Hurts to fall to the 112. Jay McCarthy, who's super hot right now everywhere, at the 501. He got Jahmyr Gibbs, Travis Etienne in the 10th. Trey Benson and Jordan Mason, along with Jonathan Brooks there just a couple of rounds ago. So okay, we're at running back. Not too exciting, but Devonta Smith, Luther Burden, Egbuka, Adams, Jaden Reed, and now Jalen Royals, Alec Pierce you can add into there. So the receivers are okay. It's a little interesting that he has Egbuka, Burden, and then grabs Devontae Adams. Like, I would think he would have gone younger than Devontae Adams, but he didn't. That's the way he went. Then tight end, he's got Bowers, Freiermuth, Michael Mayer, and Juwan Johnson. Strong. Any room that has Brock Bowers in this format is strong. All right, so that is the draft so far. Again, we're in round 22, so pretty much all the teams have taken shape. Now we're just filling out the rosters. Comes down to roster construction. What positions do you want to hit up in these last 8 rounds? I know what I'll be doing, but it will be interesting to see, like, how far do we dig at the tight end position here? I mean, dude, Darnell Washington just went in round 22. Ugh, so gross, yet so different and exciting at the same time. So other than that, I mean, it's just quite the format here with this league, and we knew what we were getting into when we started. Everybody knew that it was going to be the start 2 tight end plus a 0.75 premium, so it should get interesting, and it sure did. But I think that's all I've got for you. Be sure to hit the like and subscribe. We'll be back Thursday night with Matt, and we'll be discussing some buys for you, some of our favorite players. I don't know what we're going to title it for sure yet, but we're going to get into some players to go out there and maybe try and acquire before the season starts. It's 2.5 months away, so we've got plenty of time yet. But with a lot of startups happening now, there's definitely some buys that have come to mind with the rounds that players are getting picked in. You can see what trends are happening, and so we want to get into some of that for you on Thursday night. But that's all I've got for tonight. Again, hit the like and subscribe. We're trying to get to 200 subscribers by the beginning of the 2025 season. And check out the Patreon, patreon.com/Birdhouse Dynasty Show, or buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Birdhouse Dynasty Show. And remember, never stop working.